Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. Because I automate work that I was hired to do by hand, my friends call me a scumbag. Am I? I'm now working full-time and making a good living. There's a lot of data entry and verification at my job. I learned how to make a script do all my work because I'm a programmer at heart. Between them, their coworkers are 90% accurate and finish between 60 to 100 transactions a day. I'm right 99.6% of the time and get over 1,000 records every day. No one knows I do this because at the end of the month, our monthly bonus is based on how accurate we were and how many transactions we had. The worst part is that I get 85 to 95% of the whole bonus pool, which is a lot of cash. A lot of people are happy with their bonuses because they don't know how much they would normally get. I'm guessing they get a 100 to 200 euro bonus a month. They would get a lot more if I didn't bot. So, Reddit, am I a jerk? I do real work for about 8 hours a week. The rest of the time I read Reddit or play games on my phone. I have long lived by the following mantra. If you have a difficult task to do, give it to a lazy man. He'll find an easier way to do it. This reminds me of a story my dad forwarded me. Could be total BS, but I thought I'd share. A toothpaste factory had a problem. They sometimes shipped empty boxes without the tube inside. This was due to the way the production line was set up, and people with experience in designing production lines will tell you how difficult it is to have everything happen with timing so precise that every single unit coming out of it is perfect 100% of the time. Small variations in the environment, which can't be controlled in a cost-effective fashion, mean you must have quality assurance checks smartly distributed across the line so that customers all the way down the supermarket don't get peed off and buy someone else's product instead. Understanding how important that was, the CEO of the toothpaste factory got the top-notch people in the company together, and they decided to start a new project in which they would hire an external engineering company to solve their empty boxes problem, as their engineering department was already too stretched to take any extra effort. The project followed the usual process: budget and project sponsor allocated, RFP, third party selected, and 6 months and $8 million later, they had a fantastic solution. On time, on budget, high quality, and everyone in the project had a great time. They solved the problem by using some high-tech precision scales that would sound a bell and flash lights whenever a toothpaste box weighing less than it should. The line would stop, and someone had to walk over and yank the defective box out of it, pressing another button when done. A while later, the CEO decides to have a look at the ROI of the project. Amazing results! No empty boxes ever shipped out of the factory after the scales were put in place. Very few customer complaints, and they were gaining market share. That's some money well spent, he says, before looking closely at the other statistics in the report. It turns out the number of defects picked up by the scales was 0 after 3 weeks of production use. It should have been picking up at least a dozen a day, so maybe there was something wrong with the report. He filed a bug against it, and after some investigation, the engineers come back saying the report was actually correct. The scales really weren't picking up any defects because all boxes that got to that point in the conveyor belt were good. Puzzled, the CEO travels down to the factory and walks up to the part of the line where the precision scales were installed. A few feet before it, there was a $20 desk fan blowing the empty boxes out of the belt and into a bin. Oh, that? One of the guys put it there because he was tired of walking over every time the bell rang, says one of the workers. Good for you. 4 years, I did something like that. We talked about it before I took over the old job and agreed that I could work from home if I could figure out how to do it. The first thing I saw when I started was a desk full of folders for projects that were still going on. I told them, F all this paper, I'll never be able to work from home if I have to keep records on paper, because I was going to hire someone to work for me full-time in the office. For what we needed to do, I put all that information into an Access database on a shared drive and made the forms, reports, queries, and other things that went with it. I learned more and more ways to automate the things we needed to do over time to the point where I didn't have to do as much work myself. I could work from home for about 9 years until the company was bought by one that doesn't like it when people work from home. This really hits home for me. I worked in a warehouse entering and checking data. We kept track of our inventory in a database, and the client also had their own. About 40 to 50% of my job was to find differences between the two systems, figure out which one was right, and fix the wrong one. Although there was no monetary reward, there was a promise that lunch would be provided for the whole team, desk jockeys and forklift operators alike, since it took both to keep things straight. If the two systems were error-free at the end of the week. Before I came on, this had happened just once. So I found a way to find problems with a Java program I wrote pretty much automatically. The system was much more stable because errors weren't given enough time to compound themselves because it was running so often. We started having lunch brought to us once a week, so much so that the boss had to change the rules so that it could only happen once a month. But besides lunches that saved money, he was very helpful to me. I was able to snag an hour of extra time to work on my program and make any necessary changes. There was no export button on any of the systems I worked with, so it got old fast. Anyway, this was a temporary job for me. I finished college early with a degree in computer science and was going to start graduate school in the fall. So, about a month before I was supposed to leave, my boss suggests that I meet with the IT department and tell them about the program. They were really rude about it. I'm sure there were some hurt feelings. The main thing they said was, "Who the F are you and why are you writing programs?" Well, what if the data format changes? Your program will break, they said. I would have to update the program, yeah, that's for sure. However, I wrote a program that saves me 20 hours of work every week in 10 hours. Not long after the call, the boss of my boss came up to me and told me I couldn't run the program anymore. It doesn't matter if it saves you time, the company money, or anything else. Morale is through the roof. My boss stated, "F that, just keep running it, we'll keep it a secret." That's what we did the whole month I was there. But I took my program and its benefits with me when I left. Everyone on the team was sad because they knew that figuring out the mistakes would not only add to their work, but it would also mean the end of free lunches. I had a similar experience at a Fortune 100 company, though entry-level clerks weren't eligible for bonuses. I couldn't justify to myself that I was being paid to twiddle my thumbs, so I immediately partnered with my supervisor to verify that there were no rules I wasn't following, my logic code were correct, and I was getting 100% accuracy. Anything less was thought to be wrong. Our IT department didn't like this, but it was okay because it would save the company money by cutting down on paperwork and other tasks. I didn't get a big bonus, and my pay didn't go up right away, but I pretty much became untouchable in the company. I've been promoted several times and been given new tasks and prizes. It's also important to know that my company didn't fire the office workers. Instead, they were moved to other departments. Redditors with neighbors/HOA from H. What happened? Right now, next door. Our neighbor's nice enough, not in an HOA. This D is attempting to alter it, sending out false bills to every neighbor and attempting to collect non-existent HOA dues. Always call in the city when we have one too many cars in the driveway. 3 cars in the driveway and 3 in the garage. Could somebody please explain why that's one too many? Well, my wife decided to take our 7-month-old baby for a walk about a month ago. Just as my wife was about to leave our property, this a-hole neighbor was walking out of his garage. With an effing bat out of H, he backs out of the driveway only looking at his rear view camera. Literally, nearly runs my wife and child over. Wife had to jump out of the way and push the stroller onto the grass next to our house. "You almost ran us over," she yells as she rushes up to his window and screams at him. He waves sorry and then simply drives away. When she tells me this, I get really angry. I go outside and try to catch this sucker, but they are such an odd family. They never leave the house, and all of their windows are covered. Anyway, one lovely afternoon, when I get home from work, I see him, his wife, and their daughter, who's probably 10 years old, outside. surprised. As soon as he backs out of his driveway, I walk up to him and tell him to slow down and turn around. The wife and daughter look shocked and quickly retreat inside the house as though I had just arrived with my AR-15 to deal with him. This effort tells me I have no idea what you're talking about, in lieu of saying sorry and accepting responsibility for his error, which was caused by recklessness, not error. We continue back and forth, and he continues to deny everything until I tell him to screw it and turn around to go inside. At that point, he says, "I'm sorry, I didn't see them in the rearview camera," to which I replied, "You just spent the last 5 minutes denying everything, and now you're admitting it? Slow down. When you back out of your driveway, turn your effing head to make sure you're not running anyone over. Otherwise, I'll call the cops and they'll drag your A off to jail for endangering lives." Then I turned around and went inside. So far, he's been a good Boy Scout when he leaves the neighborhood. There's some pretty interesting people in my mom's HOA, which is for a small neighborhood of only 41 homes. After living in this small town for about 10 years, my mom decided to run for the board to try to make some changes for the better and to serve on the board for the first time, as most long-term residents do. The board chose her to be president. The neighborhood knew that an older couple with a husband, a wife, and a daughter who was getting close to middle age was mean and bossy. The wife thought that even though she wasn't on the board, she had the power to decide how the dues were spent because she knew that the community money wasn't being saved or spent correctly. She also believed that she could make up any rules she wanted for the community and her family. Like most HOAs, they have rules about how front yard should look and what can be planted in them. They also have rules about what you can add to the house and yard and what colors the house, doors, and trim can be. This family began stealing water from their neighbors by changing the path of their drip hoses and putting up ugly fake flowers and yard decorations that looked like pink plastic flamingos. It was caught that they had messed with the drip hoses, so they broke the water line and called the police to say it was the neighbor's fault. They were being mean to the board, the community, and their closest neighbors in person, over the phone, including 911 and 311 for things that weren't emergencies, and in the mail. They put trash in their yard and planted plants that were not allowed to be there. The CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, the set of rules for residents, make it very clear that these things are not allowed. Before moving in, the family signed the CC&Rs. My mom talked to the community manager, CM, and had letters telling them to stop were sent. People in the community had also complained to the CM, and more letters were sent telling them to stop and paying fines. This family owed about $7,000 in HOA fees, late fees, fines, and other costs. They had never made a payment. Once the board knew about this, they stopped responding to any messages from the family and wouldn't let them come to HOA meetings. This made the wife so mad that she started knocking on my mom's door without being asked and bothering her. When my wife didn't answer, my wife sent her a summons and notice of complaint, which is how you know you're being sued. It said she was being sued for tens of thousands of dollars for emotional damages caused by harassment and slander of character. It had all the necessary information and the letterhead of a local law firm that deals with these kinds of cases. It was mailed and needed to be signed for. Looked like the whole thing was real. I happened to be at my mom's when she got this letter. Once we'd read it and calmed down, I decided to do some research the next day. While the law firm letterhead and case information led to a real case, it turns out that it wasn't a case against my mom. It was a case against this woman by her old neighbors from the neighborhood where she lived before moving to live with my mom a year ago. She'd taken the letter, scanned it to a computer, edited the information to make it seem like the case was filed against my mom and to match the circumstances, and had it reprinted in color onto fancy stationery. She'd even traced over the lawyer's signature and pen very carefully so it looked like a proper signature. Needless to say, the law firm was not thrilled when we called them and told them what this woman had done. They got the letter and USPS signature receipt. We kept copies. I'd show them here, but it's an active case, and I don't want to hurt the chances of this C getting successfully sued. When we spoke to the lawyer last, he made it clear he wasn't letting this go. I can't wait to see this woman's face in court when what she did is proven. Edit. The long story short situation is as follows. We joined forces with this law firm. Her house was foreclosed on for delinquent payments in excess of $7,000. She lost the case miserably. Her house was literally taken away from her. I still can't believe it, but it's exactly what she deserved. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments today. Many, many thanks for your support.